This is Haymaker, Combat Sports. Hear it here, coming straight from the source. Only with the real, they ain't here to dress it up. Sweet science, MMA, you can get it all from us. Trust, 5 stars cause it's live. And through the fight game, we can guide ya. Slick talking, putting them in caution. Passing all the guards cause the audio is awesome. What you waiting for? Spread the word, tell a friend. This the podcast where all of the discussion ends. When they start going strike for strike, this the show that'll tell you what you seen in the fight. They ain't playing on the mic, this a welcome to the show. Warm it up for the squad, Haymaker of the bros. I'm a bow wow, you can hear it from the pros. It's Haymaker Combat Sports, time to roll.
And welcome back, Haymaker Combat Sports. I am your host, EJ Reed, joined by my fellow hosts, Aaron Admire, Steve Johnson, producer J-Bomb behind the scenes. How's it going, fellas?
Had a good weekend.
It was pretty good, yeah.
Nice. Any fun vacation stories, Admire?
Yeah, kind of. I almost got to see a real life fight in there, man. This one guy snuck into my cell where I have another cellmate, and this dude stole some shit from my cellmate, and they were about to throw down. Like, stealing in there is not looked upon very well. There was a lot of words thrown around that I will not repeat, but you're talking about some hardcore criminals, and one of them got caught stealing from the other one.
Oh man, what did they steal?
Nicotine pouches. So on the commissary in there, for some reason they allow them to order nicotine pouches, and these guys, they cut them up and they sniff them and do lines of them. It's gross. I've never done it with them. They keep asking me to, but this one guy, he really doesn't have any family or anything, so he has no money. And these other idiots in jail, they got him addicted to the pouches. So he's to the point now where he's stealing them from people, and he got caught.
Man, who's able to break up the fight before it happened?
My cellmate was in his face trying to get him to, because my cellmate did not want to swing first. That's the big thing in there. If you swing first, you're the one in trouble. So he was in this dude's face like, come on, fucking hit me, you thieving motherfucker, and just called him everything but a black man. And the guy wouldn't do it, and they ended up not fighting. But my cell was right next to the thieves cell, so my cellmate runs out and shuts the guy door every time they pop the doors for meals. He runs out and locks him in his cell now, won't let the guy out to eat.
Man, that's crazy. And how much of an addict you gotta be if you gotta snort nicotine pouches?
They all do in there. It's weird, man. It's so weird. And then the poor guys that can't afford the nicotine pouches, they'll sniff coffee grounds.
Jeez, does coffee grounds give them like a little buzz or something?
Yeah, because the caffeine in it.
That's
and I guess it burns. I don't know, man. Not for me.
Hey, to each his own, I guess. But
yeah,
you got to witness some fights inside of there. But there were some fights going on in the world of the UFC this past weekend. UFC 292 from Boston, Massachusetts. Early prelims, we had Karine Silva defeating Marina Moros, and then we had Natalia Silva defeating Andrea Lee, unanimous decision. Andre Petresco versus Gerald Mershot with the decision. And then that brings us to the regular preliminary card. This is what the tough finale I was telling you about. Did any of y'all get to watch this?
I didn't watch any of those. I only watched the Weidman one.
You watched the prelim, Steve?
I did not fully, but I was watching it, not fully paying attention. But as far as the first one, it was a pretty good, engaging fight. And also Brad for the second one too.
Yeah, you had Brad Katona defeating Cody Gibson to win the bantamweight Ultimate Fighter. That was a back and forth war, man. Those two went at it because they didn't like each other in real life. So, I mean, if anybody didn't get to watch that, I highly recommend you watch it. I know, Emma, you said you didn't get to watch it, but yeah, like Steve said, that was exciting. Went back and forth. And then Kurt Hollabaugh, he defeated Austin Hubbard for the lightweight Ultimate Fighter title. And it was pretty much domination by Hollabaugh. He got him in that submission, that triangle choke in the second round. But those two were exciting fights. Then you had Gregory Rodriguez defeating Dennis Talulin. Did you see that one, Steve?
A little bit of controversy, but I say we'll talk about it. Yeah, it's
What,
all.
what was the controversy about? I watched it, but I can't remember off the top of my
What,
head.
he threw an elbow and it hit the back of his head. The first one, and then the
Mm.
second one, it was legal and it took him out, which was vicious. But I vary with that. And John Anik was talking about a 1 inch difference off the apex.
Mm-hmm.
I think he said of the head, and they were saying, "Oh man, there's so much of a gray area there." But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. He was able to finish him. Do you think that elbow was more inadvertent though?
That's like throwing a kick and somebody turning and they get hit back in the head, and it's like, well, shit, you can't control the other person's where they are, where they get hit, and I feel like that was a moment he was tucking his head in. He probably couldn't see, but then again, I have to see it again. Maybe he moved in motion before he got a good look of when to swing that elbow.
Yeah, I don't think there was any malice behind that blow. And like you said, it just
Yeah.
caught him on accident. But Rodriguez was able to get the win from that elbow. And then the featured bout on the preliminary card, you had Brad Tavares defeating Chris Weidman by unanimous decision. And the story of this fight was Tavares was tearing that leg up of Weidman. It wasn't even a hurt leg, though. That's the thing about it. Did y'all get to see this fight?
Yeah. I was going to say, there was a lot of leg kicks. Luckily, it wasn't to the bad leg. But, I mean, I'm kind of with Dana White on this. Chris Weidman needs to think about retiring. I mean, he had his moments. He landed a couple good shots. But, I mean, if you look at the stats, I mean, Weidman landed half as many strikes as Tavares. Tavares was very busy in that fight. I still do like Weidman's clinch work against the cage and stuff like that. I don't know, man. I don't think he'll retire. I think if anything, if Dana White wants him to retire, Dana just don't need to book him on any fights. But I could see Weidman maybe want to try out Bellator.
Man, I don't know if he should try out Bellator, man. It might be time for him to hang it up. Maybe do one more, like officially announce his retirement, do a fight like that. But I don't think Bellator would be a good choice if he wants to, monitor his health in the future. What were your thoughts on the fight, Steve?
Yeah, the whole time I was wondering, because maybe I missed the commentary if they said it. I didn't know if it was his hurt leg or not they got, but he was tearing it up. Couldn't stay stable on his feet pretty too much towards the mid and towards the end. And you saw his moments of trying to get his strikes in, and you can see that he has some power to hurt some middleweights. He hurt Tavares or stumbled him, at least from what I saw. And you can tell he still has some good grappling, but I think he came back in the game to where like these people are advanced in their wrestling. You can see that to where there's probably a few years ago, he would have got some of those takedowns because he looked like he had a good post on some of those single leg, takedowns. But he see Brad Tavares and he just couldn't get it. And I think he might be out of his league as far as generationally.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think they ruled that knockdown a slip, but it kind of looked like a knockdown to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you think that his generation is past? I guess he's more so in like the tail end of Vitor Belfort's generation, and he's kind of almost like the bridge because Luke Rocco, one of his peers, he's pretty much retired. So
that's what I was about to say, Luke.
Yeah, I think that whole generation is like entering retirement. They were like the younger generation when Vitor Belfort and them was older. You had Luke Rockhold, like you said, and a couple other those middleweights, Gegard Mousasi. It's about time for a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you think that's it from Steve?
I think so. A lot of those wrestling techniques he was using, I can see how he probably could have got it off, and he had a pretty good grip and post on a lot of those, and he could not do it. And I was like, yep, if you can't do it with Brad Tavares, what are you gonna do when you get up to these middleweights, you know, that are bigger, the Costas or Cosmont? I think he would get destroyed.
Definitely. Didn't Wyman do a fight at light heavyweight one time as well?
I think he moved up for that. He didn't go up for the Romero fight, did he? I know they're both middleweights, but I thought they might have did that one at
I know for
light heavy.
sure
Let's
Luke
see.
Rockhold went up there and got beat, but I can't remember if Wyman tried to do the same thing as well.
I know Weidman moved up at one point. Let's see. Light heavy. Dominic Reyes. Yeah. And
That's right.
Reyes knocked him out.
Yeah. He might be stuck between a rock and a hard place for trying to like switch between divisions. So, yeah, I mean, what's the point of fighting? You're not going to get a title shot anytime soon. So,
And he was on a
hangs it up
prelim.
too. What was that, Steve?
And he was on a prelim.
Yeah, I was on a prelim too. So, I might say maybe one more fight if you give him like a guy closer to his age, just so he can have official retirement. But not anything.
Yeah. Throw him a
that.
can and just let him go out.
Yeah. But hats off to Weidman for recovering from that gruesome injury and coming back and looking decent, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
That takes us to the main card. The curtain jerker this one was Marlon Vera defeating Pedro Munoz by unanimous decision. So round one, Munoz came out with those kicks and Vera was working that jab and it was pretty much even. I feel like Munoz had the more volume in that round. And then round two, Munoz came out with more kicks and his right hand was getting through and Vera was working that jab again. It was more of a defensive chess match that second round. And then round three, Vera was working that jab and he stung Munoz a couple of times. And then he also hurt him in the middle of the round with that body shot. So I think that was the round where Vera pulled ahead. But what were your thoughts on this fight?
I enjoyed this one. I like how it stayed standing up most of the time. Vera was working that jab real good. Like you said, that one body shot really hurt Munoz. Munoz was beat up. His face looked pretty bad. I thought he would have done better, but, Marlon Vera came out and showed, why he's up there. I actually scored it 29-28, but I could see the 30-27s.
You see the 30-27s in the way of Vera?
Yeah. I mean, I can't be mad at it. I mean, Vera, he pretty much controlled the whole thing except for round one. Round one was kind of a toss up. I mean, that was really the filling out, but I don't know, man. I enjoyed watching it. I'd go back and watch that fight again.
Plus the damage.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on the fight, Steve?
Like I said, the damage on Pedro Munoz. Mm-hmm. And regardless if that's not on the papers, I think that cause an effect on the scorecards. Saying that, I like Marlon Vera's performance, but for me, my opinion, something about him that I feel like he should, and looking at the fight and his fights, he could finish a lot of these or maybe put more in emphasis to take more risks to knock his opponents out. Because I see he has good twitch fibers to counter. Like I see him have it, and I see him step with the right and orthodox and with the left, and like he can find his little counters by stepping. It was a good fight, but I think he could have. There's moments I saw he could have finished Pedro.
Think so. I feel like Pedro's pretty.
Pedro, he was getting at him.
Yeah.
I think Marlon could have stuck him very good if he sat down on one of those crosses instead of I guess that's what you got to do. But he was almost like flow state boxing. If you get what I'm saying, I don't know if that explains it.
Yeah. I feel like really Vera's only time to get him really out of there was when he hurt him with that body shot. But other than that, Munoz was pretty durable for the fight. So
he was real durable. He took a lot of punishment. I mean, you could see it, by the end of the fight that he took a lot, but he hung in there real good the whole fight, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Steve, maybe he was a little bit more aggressive. He could have, put the pedal to the gas a little bit and got him out of there. But like I said, Munoz is a tough customer. So with Vera getting that win, we'll talk about the main event a little later, but do you think it should be O'Malley next for Vera just because of the history they have?
Yeah, run that. Run it.
You think so too, Steve?
We have to run the list before I say that. Definitely an interesting fight because obviously the outcome of the O'Malley,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to see that list first.
Yeah, we'll get into it a little more when we talk about the main event, but that'll take us to the next fight. And me and Admire were talking about this one a little bit before we got on. Mario Batista defeating Damon Blackshear by unanimous decision. I thought Batista did enough to win it. Admire didn't see it that way.
I didn't see it that way, man. I think Blackshear had rounds 1 and 2, and then I think that Batista sealed it. Round 3 at the end, he got that takedown. But other than that, man, I thought Blackshear did great, man. That guy was all over the place, rolling, throwing just unorthodox, strikes. He reminded me a lot of Lyoto Machida. Like, you just didn't know what he was going to throw, if he was going to, throw a knee, or he's coming over with an overhand right. Like, it was all over. Like, I thought Blackshear won, and I'm going to have to go back and watch that. I was telling EJ that I fast forwarded through the judging because I thought it was just automatic that Blackshear would have won. And then I pulled up the results and I see that Batista got the nod. So I got to rewatch it.
Steve, what were your thoughts on the fight?
I like the fight. As far as Blackshear, as far as a newbie, seeing him compromise and go through adversity, a lot of newbies. And now that I see what Mario Batista looks like, he's had a few fights in the UFC. For a person to come in there and be durable, stand up, and be like up to par, like you are, you've been there with him. It was impressive for me. Like I could see how Mario Batista won because he had a lot of dominant positions on the ground when they went. And when Blackshear had dominant positions on the ground, he was able to reverse it, if I can remember. And it always took Blackshear a while to get back up compared to Batista. And I think that won favor in the judges' eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Blackshear got the first round, but then the other two were just Batista was putting the pressure on him. Then in that third round, he got that takedown and controlled him for most of it. And until Blackshear got that small burst at the end of the round, but then Batista ended on top of him at the end of the round. And, that was probably the lasting impression of those judges. So
yeah, I could see that happening. I think that Blackshear, with a little bit more training, and he had a short turnaround, like 8 days, man. I think Blackshear is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I can't. How old is Blackshear? Because he didn't have a Wikipedia page when I looked for him earlier. Is he in his mid 20s?
Blackshear.
Come on, Blackshear.
He is 29.
Yeah,
so he's right in his prime. He's got a little room to grow.
Yeah, but that's the bantamweight division. Bantamweight is pretty solid. They're not stacked like it's lightweight, but they got some dogs in there. So
he's a pretty big. I thought, looking at his size, he's a pretty big bantamweight. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
he looked pretty big compared to Batista.
Yeah, and also shouts out to him for taking a fight in less than a week. He just fought last weekend and made it pretty competitive. So, like Amai said, if he works on some things, maybe he can make a burst, to crack that top 10 and whatnot. But we'll keep an eye out on them. That takes us to the third fight. We had Ian Machado Gary defeating Neil Magny by unanimous decision. And the story of round 1 was Gary was tearing Magny's legs up with those low kicks. And then round 2, he started off with more kicks. And then in the middle of the round, Magny got in the clinch, but Gary turned it around. And after they got out of the clinch, Gary hurt Magny's legs and it looked like he was about to finish it. But Magny survived that second round and And then in the third round, Gary came out high with that high kick and then dropped him with that jab. And then he proceeded to chop at those legs and hit a high kick towards the end of the round. And then Magny pretty much just tried to survive, and he did survive that third round, but it was pretty dominant by Gary. What were your thoughts on this fight?
Man, Ian Gary, he had fucking Magny's number, dude. Like the big thing that sticks out to me from this fight was I think it's second round that Magny tried like a jumping knee, and Gary just almost fucking landed a hard shot like right in the middle of that. I mean, it was just a complete domination. I mean, Gary landed twice the shots, I believe. All those kicks, he was putting together combinations like crazy. I mean, Magny's not a punk. Magny is not a can, and Ian made him look pretty average. I mean, it was very dominant. The scorecards were 30-26, 30-26, and 30-24. That is domination to the highest level.
Steve?
Yeah, I had faith in Neil, but I think his gatekeeping status is like you said, I don't know if he got his number or is he's just getting older, and he's been through a lot of wars. Impressed with Gary, but I think I would have to see a maybe top 10 fight to maybe confirm, but my eyes are watching on him now because I haven't been paying attention to him a lot, but I was impressed of his striking against Neil Magny because we've seen him at least be sticking with it, even if he did lose, and at least working his way around the fight. This was just a whole domination. I mean, even with I can remember he got knocked out with Ponzinibbio, Neil Magny did, and it wasn't even a domination until that happened. This was just straight through him. I was like, oh my God, just end it or put your neck out there, because I thought he was going to just get destroyed. But that's what I think about it. I'll be looking out for Ian.
So after the fight, Gary called out Wonderboy Thompson. What do y'all think about that?
I mean, I think Ian walked away pretty unscathed from that fight, would be ready for a quick turnaround. We know Stephen Thompson just missed a fight, 2 weeks ago? So why not? Why not? I mean, I think they're kind of on the same level. I think they're both ready to go. So throw them in the mix somewhere. Put them, maybe make them a backup fight for a card if somebody drops out or something, or give them a fight night. Let them headline a fight night.
Wouldn't be mad at that. I mean, who would he headline the fight night with? You saying Wonderboy?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Wonderboy's got a big name. Ian's riding, a lot of hype, big win last night. So why not? Throw it on a fight night card. Let them headline it.
If they wanted to go to a fight night, right, I'd say they had to do it in Ireland.
Yeah. I think Stephen Thompson kind of owes the UFC for talking so much shit, not getting his pay and all that. Send him overseas.
What do you think about that matchup, Steve? Wonderboy versus Gary?
Definitely. Now that you say it, it just even the same style of attire they wear in the ring, it just reminisce the same resonance as far as I can see an engaging fight because of their styles. And usually it can be boring with Stephen Thompson if you get a stand up, and it might be a tactical war. But I think Ian Gary has a stand up style to engage, and maybe a little bit of wrestling too to force Stephen Thompson. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. I don't know, man. He's an Irish guy. How do y'all compare him with McGregor's rise to stardom? It's almost exactly 10 years ago, because they're 10 years apart in age. What do y'all see this Gary's guys ceiling as far as where you can go?
Well, he stepped in on short notice, as a replacement, and Dana White likes to favor those guys that do favors for him, and he won. So, I mean, I could see him taking a quick rise up the ranks too and getting some shots that he might not be ready for or deserving of, but the UFC kind of owes him one. So, while the guy's riding high, got Ireland, McGregor's not there to get the Irish fans. So, why not?
So actually, Neil stepped in to replace Jeff Neal.
Magny. That was right. That was right, but still, Gary, Ian Gary could have pulled out. He could have said no, but he still went along with it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they see something in this guy because they put him in the middle of a car with O'Malley. So, like you said, he probably needs the main event of Fight Night next before moving on to like a co-main event or anything like that. But yeah, we'll see how the kid, turns out over his next couple fights. So, like you said, hopefully they don't rush him in there too quick. But Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, that's definitely a step up in competition. So we'll keep an eye out on him. And that'll take us to our co-main event. We had Yan Weili defeating Amanda Lemos, unanimous decision. So round one, Weili caught Lemos' kick and got her to the ground and controlled her there for the majority of the round. At the end, towards the end of that first round, Lemos attempted that Darce choke, and that was pretty much
from the bottom. That was dope.
Yeah, and that was pretty much the only offense she got because then Weili got out of it and started pounding her. And then round two, Lemos cracked Weili early, but then Weili was able to withstand that and got her to the ground and controlled her there for the rest of the round. And then round three, Weili controlled Lemos on the ground for the majority of the round. Round four, they stood up for the first 3 minutes of the round, and then Lemos was getting the better of her when they were on the ground. Standing up on the feet. And then Weili got that takedown, but Lemos was able to get up, and they exchanged on the feet for the rest of the round. I think that was the only round you probably could have gave to Lemos, just because she was getting the better of her on the feet. But then when we go to the last round, Weili dropped Lemos with that right hand and then beat her up on the ground. Got her in that awkward crucifix. It was like, have you ever seen a crucifix from the bottom like that? That was weird.
No, not from the bottom like that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then he was pretty much beating her up on the ground when she had that crucifix. And yeah, it was a pretty dominant win by Weili. What do y'all think about the fight?
Now, I don't want to make any promises or state this is a fact, but I think this is one of the biggest gaps between strikes that I've seen in a fight. 300 to 29. That's a big difference.
It was that one-sided?
296 to 29.
Wow. Because like I said, in the fourth round, it seems like Lemos was doing a little something, but I didn't realize all those other rounds were, that far of a gap. Jeez,
yeah, it was huge. And I mean, Weili had 6 takedowns as well.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah, she did. She did. I mean, she's pretty much getting her down whenever she wanted to. So I realized, it was such a gap between the total strikes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like her total strikes, most of her total strikes were just significant. So that's just because I'm looking at the stats now. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Do y'all think Weili should have done more to actually stop her, or you think that was a fine performance by her?
It was fine. It was fine. I think she did good. I mean, Lemos is up there because she was a worthy opponent. Maybe she couldn't get her out of there. Kind of reminded me of the GSP thing is, a lot of people were like, why isn't he finishing? Why isn't he finishing? Maybe Weili just couldn't get that finish. I mean, if you were just to look at the stats and stuff, I mean, you would say she should have finished her at some point. But I mean, Lemos never really looked out of it, but she never looked all the way in it as well. And, got to shout out Lemos, man. That Darce from the bottom, that was sick. I thought, holy shit, this is it, man.
It was pretty tight.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about Weili's performance, Steve?
I thought it was good. Lemos, I think she's actually that tough, strong, and has heart, but I don't think has the skill to step in the ring with somebody like Weili. And I think that was the difference in this fight. you can tell she wasn't out of her league or just being sort of woman handled, so to speak. I don't say manhandled. You could tell that she threw that darts on the bottom, and although it was a desperation, I think one of her skills is she wasn't fighting Wei Lee. I think she would have caught a lot of fighters with that choke. But Wei Lee's a veteran, and she's beaten the top people so far, and I think she's the top women's fighter in her weight so far. So it's just what it is.
What do you think Wei Lee goes from here? Who do y'all think she should face next? Because I'm looking at the top 5, and I think I know who UFC wants her to fight, but I think Suarez should get the next opportunity at the title. Suarez is ranked number 2 and undefeated. Who y'all think she should face next, though?
You know who I wanted to fight?
Who?
Jan.
That's who UFC wants her to fight. They wanted to fight Yan Jiaonan. I don't know, man. She's good. I know they're trying to set up the China versus China, but how can you deny Suarez?
I mean, yeah, Suarez is a good pick too, though, because undefeated. I mean, has beat some big names. Beat Andrade. Suarez is the more legit pick to fight next, but the business pick is Jan.
Yeah, definitely. Who do you think, Steve?
I would definitely have to agree with that. I think they will go with Suarez.
You think they'll go with Suarez instead of Jan?
As far as she's number 2, and where is Jan at?
Number 5.
Number 5. I think there would have to be a fight. Either Suarez will get a title shot, or the next fight would be either Suarez or Jan.
That would be a good eliminator. But I don't think UFC will probably do that. They like hot shotting people, especially like you said, the business side of things. I admire. What about Rose sitting there at number 4, even though she's going up to flyweight? She already beat her twice. She beat Wei Lee twice.
Already beat her twice. Why? I mean, I'm not ready to see him run that back.
Why not, though? If Wei Lee has a championship and Rose already beat her twice, that seems like it makes sense, though.
It does, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it just yet.
That's a rare situation where the challenger has it up on the champion.
Twice like that.
Yeah.
Shadow over him.
Yeah, like you said, you don't see that often. Besides, I think Jones already beat Cormier twice, and when Cormier still had that light heavyweight belt. But it's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head.
It's like if Rose stays in the parameters of top 5, she can always haunt Wei Lee if she wants to come back down. Like, she's champion. Let me take that real quick.
I think UFC bribed Rose to go up the flyweight at this point, because it was like random her going up there. She's not like a huge strawweight.
Yeah, probably the decisions, or probably weight, getting older, probably harder to cut that.
That's true, but I don't know. It seems like she still could compete down there, but we'll have to see how it shakes out. But that'll take us to the main event. Sugar Sean O'Malley defeating Aljamain Sterling TKO second round. Admire and Jay's favorite fighter, Sean O'Malley, getting it done. So round 1 was pretty close though, man. Both of them stood on their feet. It was pretty much even until I think Aljo edged the round out by getting them in that clinch and getting those little tight shots. I think that gave him the round. We get to round 2. Aljo was putting the pressure on them. He threw that straight left. He overextended, got caught with that flush counter right by O'Malley, some ground and pound, and the ref went in there, stopped it. What were y'all thoughts on this fight?
I think Sterling had round 1. He looked real good, but then he missed that shot in the second round and just ate one to the face. I will say, I hate to be that guy. It was kind of an early stoppage. I think Sterling was still defending himself. He still had a chance to get back in it. I messaged you Friday afternoon and said, Friday afternoon or Thursday after the show that, hey, people are already saying that if it happens, it's going to be an early stoppage. And it kind of was, but I said on that show that I'll cheer for Sean O'Malley if he wins. So going forward, I got to cheer for Sean O'Malley. He's so long. Once he puts somebody on the ground, it's hard for them to defend. He can throw them long ass punches standing up, and that's hard to defend when you got bombs coming in like that. He's fine. He's not going to be champ long.
Steve.
Yeah. I felt like Aljamain could have done better to avoid those strikes. Utilize his wrestling and grappling a little bit better, and backpack his ass like he does everybody. Find a way to do that, and drain him out that first round. He was trying to go. Yeah, you're feeling him out head to head, but I think he should have just did relentless pressure with the grappling, and I think that was his downfall. I kind of disappointed in his game plan.
I'm gonna go with Admire. I think the stoppage was a little bit premature because Aljo flipped over to his stomach, and you don't know. I think he was defending himself well enough where he may have been able to recover. I thought, what was it, the Frankie Edgar Gray Maynard? I think Frankie Edgar was more hurt, and they didn't even stop it in that one. I don't know, man.
Every time they fought, Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard, it started out the same way, like every time.
I thought Frankie Edgar was in way more trouble than Aljo was in this fight, and I don't know. I don't think the ref gave him the benefit of the doubt for some reason. Maybe they got something out against Aljo. I don't know.
No, it's not they got something against Sterling. They have something for O'Malley. We knew that the UFC wanted O'Malley to have the belt. We all knew it.
And I think you were on to something last week, EJ, when you said it was a quick turnaround. And pondering on it, I think that, relationship that Aljo has with Dana, and just you can tell whether he says it directly, they're not buddies, And I think maybe O'Malley got thrown one, and a vulnerable champion looks vulnerable.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. Like of course they want Sugar Sean O'Malley to be a star, but like Steve was saying, like Aljo and Dana don't have the friendliest relationship, and that was a quick turnaround. He just fought in May, and they just rushed him back in there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can do it for Conor, you can do it for anybody. I mean, he don't like him. That's what I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but Aljo took his defeat. He didn't cry about it. He took it like a man. So, he showed class and defeat. And I mean, what do y'all think though? Who should O'Malley's next opponent be? Because O'Malley wants to fight Vera, but the way that fight ended and the long time that Aljo was champion, shouldn't you give him an immediate rematch? Like, who do y'all think O'Malley should face next?
I like the Vera That's my pick.
The Vera fight. And not giving Aldo a immediate rematch, even though he was champion for so long.
You don't get a rematch when you get TKO'd.
I mean, sometimes you do. Didn't GSP get an immediate rematch after Sarah TKO'd him?
No, I think GSP might have had one between there. Don't use GSP against me.
I think he got the immediate rematch after getting knocked out by Sarah. And it wasn't like it was GSP was a long-time champion at that point. He didn't go into his long run until after he got the championship back from Sarah. So, I don't know, man. Might be favoritism. Isn't it? I know you're looking it up now. Isn't it immediate
I'm looking
rematch
it up
for
now.
GSP?
Nope. He lost to Matt Serra, then he won against Koscheck, won against Matt Hughes, then fought Sarah. So he had two in between.
He had two fights in between?
Yep.
Did Sarah defend the belt, though?
I don't think he did.
That's weird.
Let's see.
That he didn't have to defend his belt and GSP had to fight two fights.
Yeah, that was Sarah fought GSP back to back. He didn't defend it.
Well, I don't know. It's borderline because Tyron Woodley is probably just the champion as long as Aljo, and he didn't get in a immediate rematch. Of course, Silva got immediate rematch.
Yeah.
Amanda, she got an immediate rematch. I guess it just depends. If you're borderline, they're probably not going to give you an immediate rematch. If Aljo defended it like 3 more times, he probably would have. But but how do y'all see the Vera fight playing out if O'Malley gets it? Because Vera beat him last time.
I was gonna mention we forgot somebody was lurking in the dark. Aljo's friend, yeah, I forgot about him. He might be thrown at O'Malley.
Yeah, so how could you give Vera the shot over Marab?
I think it's a good story and a good history. I think it's a good fight. I think that with their history, seeing, what would really happen, and that's going to sell the most, pay-per-view buys. It's just the one to make, because there's still that cloud of doubt of what would have happened, and Vera's riding high on a win. Just the backstory sells it. It makes it that much better to me.
But okay, so look up Vera's ranking. What is Vera ranked right now?
I think he was 5 going into that.
He was that high?
He might have been 7.
Yeah, double check that really quickly, because if he's ranked number 7, even though he beat him once, and wasn't it by that injury though? He won because O'Malley got injured in that fight or something.
Yeah, it was an injury. Yeah, Vera was 7 going into this.
That's kind of, I guess it depends what you rank him after this weekend, but what was Munoz ranked? He's ranked lower, so how did you
Munoz was 13.
Yeah, so you can't really put Vera up that high from beating a guy ranked underneath him. What's Marab ranked?
2.
Yeah, you can. That's just literally a business move if you get Vera to fight O'Malley next, because y'all try to hide him from wrestlers. Which I don't know.
Marab definitely deserves it more. He's beat Jan, he beat Jose Aldo, he beat Marlon Moraes.
But then you said our guy Aljo, he said he wanted an immediate rematch, and he's not going to fight Marab, so that kind of makes it murky as well. Because even Aljo admitted after the fight, he was like, "If I got knocked out by O'Malley, what do you think that Volkanovski would do to me at featherweight?" So maybe he's not as quick to go up to featherweight now that he lost.
Put Sterling against Vera and do Marab against O'Malley.
And then what if
about
Sterling
Cejudo?
What was that, Steve?
What about Cejudo?
He still hadn't really said what he wants to do after he lost.
You never know what that guy's going to do. Andy just lost to Sterling.
Yeah.
So if Sterling beat Vera and then Marab beat O'Malley, then what you do after that?
O'Malley versus Vera again.
But then what you do with the championship?
I don't. Just go old school. Have a tournament.
Because what she say? Aldo just said he wouldn't face Marab, so that'd be a weird situation if Sterling stuck there and then Marab ends up winning the belt. It's always weird when teammates don't want to fight each other. It's kind of awkward. But
it is what it is.
Admire touched on it earlier. You don't think O'Malley will keep the belt for long?
Nah. He's just he keeps winning, but it was an early stoppage. Sterling did mess up, by missing that punch and left himself wide open. I think just O'Malley is just great at opportunities. That's what he's good at. I guess that's the name of the game, but technically, I don't think he is the guy. He might defend it once, but he's not the man. He's not going to break any records holding the bantamweight title.
What do you think, Steve? You think he keeps the belt for long?
Yeah, I think he might get a few opponents, but as far as a long run, I don't see it. I don't think he's been thrown into the waters, and when he did, it was questionable as far as Peter Yan and Vera.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what he does in the future, but I don't know. I'm kind of with y'all. I don't know if he has a long run, especially if he faces wrestlers. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the thing. That's the thing. He hasn't really beat an elite wrestler yet, and that's going to be his downfall. Because, like I said, if you look at every one of Sean O'Malley's wins and highlights, it's he lands a good hit, they fall on the ground, and he throws them long, lanky arms from the top. But if I want to see what happens if somebody's on top of him, let's see what he does.
I mean, they
Like
said
Cejudo
he
right now. Cejudo would mop O'Malley right now.
You think so?
Yep, 100%.
I mean, like you said, we don't know what Cejudo wants to do. He retires one day, comes back the other day. So, man, so if you think Cejudo will wipe him, you don't think Morale would do the same thing?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Marab would too.
Yeah, I think Marab would scrape him.
Man, so
Just wrestle if he wouldn't be able to get up.
it's interesting. I mean, you got to give props to the kid. He took his opportunity and got the job done. And, he'll be going across all the podcasts and carrying that belt around. And I mean, he backed it up. But
He did. I got to give it props. He did win. The only controversy maybe on it was the early stoppage, but other than that, I mean, he won. There's nothing I can say. And no matter who he's facing next, I'll pick O'Malley in the next fight. Just I'll stand by what I said.
we shall see. So before we get out of here, I have my clip of the month. I don't know if you could run this for us real quick, Jay. Clip of the month. No clip of the month.
He's probably running up to his computer now.
Well, before we get to the clip of the month, did you have something really quickly beyond the cage, Admire?
Yeah, I just wanted to hit on a couple people here. So, we look at them all as fighters. So I just wanted to talk about some of the fighters that are like highly regarded outside of the UFC. What I mean is like a former UFC fighter, Nick Dennis. He has a doctorate degree in biochemistry. Chael Sonnen, he was a real estate broker and he was a state Senate candidate. Just some of the accolades that these people have outside of fighting that we know them for. Carlos Newton, he got power bombed by fucking Matt Hughes back in the day. He has a degree in medicine. Shane Carwin was a mechanical engineer. Brian Stan, of course, was a Marine. He played a lot of college football. So I didn't know if there was any people that stuck out to you guys as far as, Quinta, I forgot about him.
Yeah. Like you said.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Steve. No, go ahead, Steve.
Damn. Oh, one person. I got another person. I can't think of his name, but I guess this one doesn't count. Abraham Lincoln of Dagestan. Yeah, he quit UFC to be a doctor.
Oh, really?
So I think that's amazing.
That's crazy because he could have got a title shot if he would have stuck with it because he was that good. I want to say he lost one or was undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that maybe a couple months ago, but I forgot about that. Zabit was going to be a doctor. That's impressive.
Mirko Krokop. I mean, he was a Croatian fucking special task force, terrorist task force officer. Like Mirko Krokop was a fucking badass.
Mm-hmm. Rich Franklin, teacher.
Yeah, math teacher.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And the most fitting, I think, was Joe Lozon. He was a big IT tech guy. So, he always looked like a kind of a computer nerd, but he was violent.
Oh yeah, I think he still might be fighting. I think he fought at least in 2022. He might have fought this year, but yeah, be an IT guy after taking so much brain damage, that's definitely impressive. You talk about Brian Stan, though. I know Brian Stan was a high up military officer. Didn't he run for some type of office recently?
I think he was running for something. Politics. I don't remember. I know he does a lot for the Wounded Warrior Project, and I can't remember, but I remember something about Brian Stan trying to do something like that.
Yeah, Brian Stan is probably the top of my list just because of the military. And then I want to say went into politics after that. I think he might have just, like you mentioned real estate. I think he was in real estate as well of some nature.
Yeah, him and Chael Sonnen kind of had the same outside of the cage accolades, except for Brian Stan had the military experience. But yeah, I think they both had like some real estate stuff.
So the beat tops your list, Steve.
Korean Zombie. He always got to go to military duties. That's another one.
Oh yeah, Korean Zombie. I think he's fighting next week against Holloway, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's off the top of my head right now.
That's good stuff. Yeah. Good topic, Admire.
Yeah, I think Jay's there.
What's that?
I think Jay's there with the clip.
Oh, Jay, you got the clip? If so, let's run it before we get out of here. This is the clip of the month. It's from a smaller organization. It didn't have the name on the clip. It was from IG. It was on ESPN MMA's page, but they didn't give the names of the fighters. I'd like to give them a shout out, but let's run this clip really quickly. Flatline. If anybody listening on podcast forums, he just flatlined.
That didn't even look real.
He stiffened up and then went face first like Peter Griffin on Family Guy. Run that back one more time, Jay.
That's hilarious. Hold on, I gotta watch that again.
I thought he was like playing rope-a-dope like Silva.
Yeah, that's some Ric Flair shit, man.
Okay, let me see it. That was kind of like a, before I say it,
one more time.
That was a Johnny Walker. That was
Johnny
a
Walker
bit
made
of a Johnny
somebody
Walker.
like that.
It's like he went stiff and then his body turned like a fish. Oh, that was weird.
That didn't even look real. Like he got stunned with that. He threw a right or was it a left? I can't remember, but he went stiff and then he just like had a delayed reaction and just went face first.
Yeah.
You know those cartoons where they get hit and they do the dance and then they fall over.
Yeah,
That's what it looked like.
Like I said, he went face first like Peter Griffin, but
Yeah.
hopefully that guy was able to recover because that looked bad. But y'all got anything else before we get on out of here?
Nope. Let's go.
Let's go. Well, shout out for everybody viewing live and anybody listening in the future on the podcast forums. Next month we got UFC 293, and I think that's happening in Australia. You got you got Israel Adesanya facing Sean Strickland for that middleweight belt. So we'll be back to preview that and review that. But yeah, that's all for us. And until next time, y'all be safe out there. Peace.
Hit the takedown, ground and pound. That was from the top. Heel hooking on one platter, leave you in the knot. Pound for pound in the ground.